Pay me, pay me, pay me my silver now. Pay me or go to jail. Pay me my
Hey guys,
silver.
Bix Weir, roadrunner.com with your morning horns. Here's your sip of chaga coffee. Oh, yes. So my friend Jean-Claude, after getting kicked off again from his YouTube channel, again, I talked about this yesterday, but he just posted his first discussion with the lovely Penny Kelly. I love Penny to death. Penny rocks. You should definitely listen to Penny Kelly and Jean-Claude talk about what they see coming in the next year or so. This is a Jean-Claude, Jeanclaude, Beyond Mystic 003. He's already got almost 8,000 subscribers, so definitely click and subscribe to his channel. Hey, by the way, click and subscribe to my channel too. YouTube, click and subscribe. I've been stuck at below 100,000 subscribers for I can't tell you how long. And I'd love to hit 100,000 before they kick me off. And so I don't even know if I should talk about this, but we're going to talk about silver today again. Really interesting time going on in silver. Penny mentioned something in her discussion with Jean-Claude about I was looking for July for the prices to run. I'm not looking for the prices to run in silver until the shutdown of the COMEX. We cannot have free pricing in silver before the shutdown of the COMEX. So what I'm looking for in July are things that will cause the COMEX to shut down. Defaults on deliveries, things like that. Exposing the fraud, which some people are going a long way to doing. Although I'd done it for 20 years, nobody believed me, but now more and more people are believing, and they're starting to dig into the numbers. Decent day on Friday as far as the price, but remember, they can set the price to zero. They can set the price of silver to minus $40. Price is a facade. It's fake. A fake front. That's what a facade is. A fake front. I remember learning that word in like 8th grade. Facade. Fake front. Anyway, but there are things going on behind the scenes, and that's what we want to look at behind the scenes. Let's take a look at what happened yesterday. Volumes are right in line with normal, and I said they're going to either have to slam it down or do something drastic to get out of their July delivery. Now, it looks like something drastic was done, but not enough. This is the numbers for Friday. 8,000 contracts, 8,800, almost 10,000 contracts, which is 50 million ounces were taken off. The interesting thing to me is that the rollover, which is what Jeffrey Christian's friends like to do, they usually will just roll the majority of this over. They only rolled over 3,500 contracts. So that's what, 17 million ounces. The rest were closed out. So you saw open interest is currently at 32,155 million ounces ready for delivery. But if you look down here, 6,000, which is 30 million ounces, were actually closed out, meaning whoever had those open contracts had to take the hit, which is great news. It means they're running for the hills both on the contract side and there's things going on the physical delivery. Now, Monday is the last day of the June contract, and then we get into the July deliveries. The way it works in the criminal system, they try to roll over everything at the end to carry on the con, kick the can down the road. They only rolled over 3,500. The interesting thing about the COMEX is, so Monday, although Monday's the last day of the June contract, and deliveries start on Tuesday, but they also have a rollover on Tuesday. I don't know why that's allowed after the contract's already over. Maybe it's next day, I don't know. But so, let's just say they roll over another 100 million ounces, which should put us at 50 million ounces for delivery. I don't think there is 50 million ounces for delivery. JP Morgan and Perth Mint are going to have to figure out another con to get 50 million ounces into the system. Now, it could be bigger because usually the very last day is less. So we will see. But these are huge rollovers or closing out of contracts. So it's a good sign. It means somebody's running for the hills. I expect somewhere between 50 and 80 million ounces to be delivered for the July contract. It's a very painful delivery for the bad guys. Very painful. I mean, we know how short silver is. There's not a lot of silver out there. Will July end the price suppression? No, the COMEX has to shut down for that. Unless the bad guys want to reset the price to like $45, they could do that. But we're looking for the COMEX to shut down. There's no reason for the COMEX to be in business. It's called the Crimex for a reason. And that's every commodity. You want to know why lumber went up so much and then dove? It's the derivative contracts in lumber. It's the games they play. You want to know why shipping rates go so high and then so low, like below what any shipper can ship for? It's the derivative contracts traded on the COMEX. Derivatives, derivatives, derivatives. And ICE manages the whole show along with a company called Virtu Financial. I've been screaming this for at least since 2008. So 13 years. And people are starting to listen. Great interview. Rob Keats over at Gold Silver Pros. They dig into the Perth Mint books. I mean, we were doing this, 7-8 years ago? And we got the Perth Mint to shut down their unallocated program. And then they started up again in 2018 for some unknown reason, or 16 or 18. But these guys are accountants going through the books. I mean, we didn't even need to go through the books. The books, they can lie about the books. And they will. I'm sure the next annual report, which comes out in September for last year, they always lag. But the next annual report will be complete falsities, and these guys will be confused as to what happened to the books. Because you can legally lie on your books. Leasing is a great example, leasing silver. Nobody needs to lease silver. It's the stupidest thing ever. But a lot of companies do to hide, to play the shell game. Now, whose books should a lease be on depends what kind of lease it is. If it's a capital lease where there's a fixed buyout at the end, which is a lease, then it goes on the books of the lessee. Or it can't be counted. No, I take that back. It can't be counted as a operating lease. Operating lease is fair market value at the back end. And some of these leases, it all depends how the contract is written. Some of the leases says you can either return metal or you can pay in cash, fair market value, or a fixed purchase price. So without knowing the back end of these leases, these guys are kind of spinning in the wind. Now, if you saw the lease contracts and you knew the back end, you would know whether or not the Perth Mint could put it on their books as a loan, as an asset, or it all depends how the lease is written. And these are the financial games that I've known about for hell. I participated in them when I was a banker. It's all legal too, according to the FASB rules. Now they've changed it a bit, but in order to fully understand how a lease is booked on both the lessee and the lessors on their books, you got to see the details of the contract. Whether it's a loan would mean a fixed purchase price. Whether it's a capital asset that they can keep on their books, like the Perth Mint tries to do, and there's this lending and leasing metal to ETFs, which I think is total fraud. But is that fraud on the Perth Mint part, or is that fraud on the borrower's part? Like leased metal in SLV, I would say is fraud on the people who provided the metal, because clearly BlackRock says this is not leased metal. At least they're not doing the leasing. But clearly Goldman Sachs believes that that's fine. So whose books is it on? And if they lease the metal from JP Morgan or from the Perth Mint unallocated accounts, where is the accounting? What is the proper accounting? It depends on the contract, which is crazy. So unless these guys can get to see the lease and loan contracts and the contracts with the ETFs, you don't know whose books it's supposed to go on and how it's supposed to be classified on those books. Is it an operating lease? Is it a capital lease? And they can put all kinds of other things in there too. And All they have to do is convince their idiot auditor that this is the right way that it should be booked. I've been through that world. I was in banking and leasing for a long, long time. So, but there is zero. And this is what pisses me off about the COMEX or the LBM, not the LBM, the CFTC, the regulator, is that this should be known. Leasing of silver, there is no economic justification to lease silver in any sense of the world. Silver is a consumed asset. There's no reason anybody would lease silver. There's just no reason. It should be a loan. A loan with a potential buyback and the credit risk they don't even talk about. So that's where we are. Craziness, but great job. These guys do a great job digging through. I would just say, hey, get the contracts. If you can get the lease contracts, you can figure out where it's going to be booked and on whose books. But you'll never get that from these assholes. But keep it up anyway. It's bringing to light. It's not going to do anything. Love you guys, but it's not going to do anything. I mean, we've had CFTC commissioners admit that they don't enforce the law. So it's the same thing I did. You get to a point where it's like, okay, how much more time do I want to spend exposing these guys when the world doesn't seem to care and the regulators won't do anything about it anyway? Look up a CFTC judge named George Painter. There's only 2 CFTC judges that decide these things, and George Painter is one of them. George Painter, on his retirement letter, said, this whole thing's a fraud. The judge, said this other guy, Judge Levine, has never found the bad guys guilty of anything, even though he's had thousands of cases, open and shut cases, put in front of him. That's how fraudulent the system is. Anyway, I do want to talk about some silver mystery. It's not a mystery. This is why the U.S. is legally allowed to hide all their information on silver rigging. It's a national security interest thing. Absolutely. And it started in the 1940s with the Manhattan Project. Building the Manhattan Project, building the first nuclear bombs, they had to lease or borrow 14,000 tons of silver to begin with, and then it turned into 86,000 tons from the U.S. government. The U.S. government back then had silver certificates. They had all kinds of silver in their inventory. Almost 3 billion ounces of silver was in the U.S. government inventory. Here's a picture of some of it. Not sure why that guy has his shirt off, but hey, soft porn in the 1940s. This is them moving silver to be turned into a magnet to make the first uranium. Purified uranium. Whatever you call it. To make the first atom bomb. And this is an interesting site. I'll get to this in a second. But I was looking at this stuff. If you're on Road to Ruta, you know this stuff. I wrote articles about it 10 years ago. The Great Silver Mystery Revealed, talked about the government. There's the silver magnets that were created in the Y12 facility. It didn't work. It didn't work in the beginning. They were freaking out, so they had to build another facility. It didn't make enough. Enriched uranium, that's what it's called. Enriched uranium. They had to make another facility, the B facility. And then they said, oh, no, we tore it all down in the early 1950s. They would never tear this down, and they didn't. They didn't tear it down until the 1990s. When they were running out of silver, they had to tear it down and give the silver back. There were other ways to produce to enrich uranium by then. But yeah, the Y12 facility and the other facility is called the B facility, which I talk about in my follow-up article. So the first one's called, just go to the search function, look up Manhattan Project. You'll find these in the search function. The Great Silver Mystery Revealed. Second one is more on the Great Silver Mystery. This is General Leslie Groves wrote a book about it. Listen to some of these quotes. Page 107. Colonel Marshall thereupon called upon the Secretary of the Treasury, Daniel Bell. Mr. Bell said that he might be able to make some 47,000 tons of free silver together with 39,000 tons more, which could be released from the backup of silver certificates if Congress authorized its use through appropriate legislation, which they did. That's exactly what they did. In page 207, under the terms of the final agreement, The silver required by the project was to be withdrawn from the West Point Depository 6 months after the end of the war. An equal amount of silver would be returned to the Treasury. It was further agreed that no information would be given to the press. Wow. This is a general in the U.S. government, the guy who was in charge of the Manhattan Project, admitting that the U.S. government cooked their books. It was further agreed that no information would be given to the press on the removal of the silver, and the Treasury would continue to carry it on their daily balance sheets. So if the U.S. government is going to rig their books, don't you think the Perth Mint's going to rig their books? Absolutely. At page 109, many of the precautions we took were aimed at primarily concealing our interest in silver. This is the U.S. government admitting that they rigged their books and they have unallocated silver back then. They had silver certificates with no silver backing it. There's the original balance sheet. Remember, there's no computer spreadsheets back then. They hadn't been invented yet. So they had to use balance sheets. Look at that. That's awesome. I used to use those, oh my God, back in high school. Those ledger accounting sheets. This is amazing stuff. And you can only find it on the road to Ruta. So basically what happened was they're creating the first atomic bomb. They needed silver because the silver would make the best magnet. They said, oh, we could have used copper. No, they could not have. Copper would not have worked. It had to be silver. They made the Y-12 facility. It wasn't kicking out enough enriched uranium, so they made the B facility with almost, so let's see, Y-12 was 500 million, and the B was almost 3 billion. So yeah, and all that silver's come back into the market starting in the 1990s when they tore down the Y-12 facility and then the B facility. So that's where you have all this extra silver. It's like, for years, people said, there's a silver shortage and there's a deficit and nobody has any silver. That's where it came from. But that's what's running out. That's where JP Morgan got their inventory of over 1 billion ounces. And guess what? They have now leased out almost all of it. Look at the registered inventories versus what's being called on the COMEX. I mean, right now, we're looking at a potential for 150 million ounces to be delivered with one trading day left. But again, they do this crazy rollover shit. There's no economic justification for it. Anyway, more on the Y-12 facility. Stay in that. Here's the Y-12 facility being torn down in 2001. They removed the silver in 94, 95, and 96. I have all the documentation and the exporting of massive amounts of silver to England to run the LBMA con. And it's all USGS documentation. And it's on the links attached to the 2 articles I wrote on it. All right. But the interesting stuff is this was all secret, but there was all kinds of spies within the Y-12 facility that people are starting to find out. The funny thing is, this is an article on a spy worked at Y-12, Eastman, Tennessee Eastman Company. Continuing with the 4th and final installment of his Historically Speaking series on Manhattan Project spies with connection to Oak Ridge, we now examine Al Slack. According to John Goujon's autobiography, Al Slack was a shift supervisor at Y-12 during the Manhattan Project. Continuing 4th and final installment, Al Slack was born in 1906, works at Eastman Kodak. Deep State Cabal, where he first sold commercial information to Richard Briggs, thinking it was going to be a competitor of Kodak. He learned it was actually going to the Soviet Union. Later, after Briggs' sudden death, Slack was handed off by Soviet agents to Harry Gold, who became the courier to provide the information to the Soviet Union. And it goes through how this guy was working at the Y-12 facility, the most secret facility in the world at the time. It was completely secret. Nobody was allowed to know even what they were working on. This was to make enrich uranium for the first atomic bomb. But then you think, well, is the government really hiding this? If you guys know who this guy is, I've talked to him out a few times. Major Jordan's diary, a guy named Racy Jordan. Racy Jordan was in charge of logistics for the U.S. government, and he basically sent all this valuable stuff from the United States, including metal mining equipment, including all kinds of things, including enriched uranium. They were shipping enriched uranium to the Soviet Union or to Russia back then. And everybody said, no, we're in an arms race. We can't let these Russian spies know what we're doing. Check out here. This is an awesome discussion from the horse's mouth, Major Jordan's diaries. I think it was recorded in the 60s. Listen to this.
Information about what went to Russia. I thought it would be smart to turn it over to the Air Corps. So I talked to one of the officers in the Air Corps and I said, the State Department's been lying to you fellows. I said, now I've got the data that'll actually show you what the State Department did, and you can protect the Air Corps against the lying cookie pushers in the State Department. Nobody seemed to want these records. They're all afraid of them. And so I hung on to them for a while until one day it was announced in the paper that a 3-ounce bottle of uranium was missing. And there was headlines in all the papers about the uranium that was missing. And the public mustn't get excited because they had 600 police out on the ash dumps with Geiger counters looking for this 3-ounce bottle of uranium. They wouldn't let the Russians get it. So I'm standing in front of a bulletin board, and there was a couple of officers standing there, and they were talking about, gee, if the Russians ever get that 3-ounce bottle, we're sunk. And one of them said to the other, says, why, the entire policy of the Pentagon is predicated on the fact that the Russians won't get the atom bomb for 15 to 20 years, and there's that 3-ounce bottle going, and some spies got it. So I turned around casually to these officers, and I said, don't worry about it. I used to ship the Russians uranium in 100-pound boxes.
True story. True story. There's so much we're not told going on behind the scenes, especially with silver. But this is what the most important thing at the time, making a nuclear bomb. We gave Russia everything they needed to create the bomb. And it was the U.S. government, out of the State Department. This guy, Major Racy Jordan, documented everything he sent. You should see all the shit he sent to Russia without the U.S. people knowing it. It was crazy. Anyway, go to YouTube, look up Major Jordan's diaries. George Racy Jordan. Crazy stuff, huh? Really exciting stuff. The Jenny Moonstone readings, I have posted the 2 latest ones. The first one said, get ready. It's a Theta and Silver Summer. The second one is John McAfee dead? And who runs the crypto cabal? You do not want to miss these discussions. Jenny nailed it on this. Go check it out. It's on the private road. Just go to roadtoroota.com. Click on the private road. Private road is right here. We're starting to work on a new part of the website, so we got this cool little logo. Anyway, right down in the beginning, Jenny Moonstone readings. Check it out. It's going to blow your mind. If you're not on the private road yet, hit subscribe today. And join. It's less than $1 a day, and we send you a free Road to Ruta coin, the best coin ever. As long as silver's under $30, which means as long as the comics is still up and running, we're going to be sending you silver coins for every renewal or subscription. It's a great deal. Look at that coin. And you can't get in the stores. You can't get on AppMex. Once in a while, they'll go on eBay for $50 or $100. I haven't seen any with the date. Get the ones with the numbers on them. They're stamped on the bottom, each individually numbered. Those are going to be the valuable ones because it's limited quantity. All right. But I haven't seen any of those go on eBay. They'll probably go for a couple $100, and the subscription's $2.99 for a year. And then you got the silver price, which who knows how high that's going. Anyway, join today. This is Bix. I'll talk to you guys later.